So with that, let's open up the floor for any questions, comments, motions. I'll go ahead and pull up the portfolio in the new site, and we'll get rolling. Go ahead.
Marty also is making a point about tandem, neutral tandem. Might we be looking at that one also? He wants to know.
We certainly can. We can look at whatever you guys want to look at. So what would you like to do? What did you have in mind, Marty? Actually, we should probably go to Susan first. She had a comment she wanted to weigh in on Zhongpin. And I think she has a microphone, Ken. I'll get my cheat sheet here.
Susan, you're unmuted. Go ahead.
Okay, fine. I guess my question was, I noticed that Ken sold his hogs on his groundhog, and I was wondering why you did that. I'm a little concerned when these companies get into the yellow space. They sound very speculative to me. I understand this is a virtual club, but I would be more inclined to sell advanced battery technology, but I'd like to hear your reasoning behind your sale, Ken.
I wouldn't place a whole lot of emphasis on what I buy and sell in my groundhog portfolio. I will tell you that I still hold hogs in my own personal portfolio, and that it's still held in one of the clubs that I belong to. I'll tell you a little bit that I've learned about hogs in the last month or so, which still gives me some confidence in the stock. They did have to do some dilution about 6 weeks ago. The Chinese government strongly suggested that they move towards building another distribution center. Zhongpin had reported earlier, prior to that they were finished building distribution centers, and that they were going to concentrate now on making the whole thing coordinate and work. But the government didn't think they had enough distribution centers, so the government said, you really need another one yet. And they suggested that Zhongpin could finance that distribution center by selling some more shares of stock. So Zhongpin went out and diluted itself. That was the first hit in the stock, from around $17.50 to around, maybe $15.50, $16, something in that range. And then the stock traded up a little bit, down a little bit, up a little bit, down a little bit. And just recently, Zhongpin has had some confidence, as far as I'm concerned. I've become more confident about what's happening when they were offered some significant financing from another Chinese financial, I don't know if it's a bank or a financial institution, sort of like Goldman Sachs or something like that, but they had some significant financial backing from a Chinese financial or financier. And when that happened, I was a little bit more confident. That was the day Zhongpin went up about a buck something, a buck and a quarter, buck and a half, something like that. A really nice move for a $15, $16 stock. So just because I sold it in groundhog, I don't place a lot of credibility in whatever I do in the old groundhog. But I'm still holding it, and I would not urge anybody to do anything with it right now. I think long term that a play on pork in China is still a pretty safe bet. Now, I have a whole different feeling on American or advanced battery technology, and a long story I can tell about that if need be, but I won't right now.
Yeah, there's your bump right there that you're talking about. We went up right there. A couple of them in the last week. Anybody else have any comments along those lines? Or care to chime in? Go ahead and sort it.
This is Susan again. I'm just, you're concerned about your return on your portfolio, and you're hanging on to these stocks so the price is down so far. Isn't it time maybe to cut your losses and start over? I mean, if you want to rebuy them at a lower rate, you could do that, but I know we don't pay taxes, but I don't see the sense in hanging on to, maybe not hogs, but definitely not advanced battery technology.
And see, I come at it from a slightly different perspective. I think that advanced battery technology is a train wreck. They're clearly under attack from various directions, and people can certainly bring the horror stories. I posted one just today um, that calls into question a lot of what's going on in advanced battery technology. So, um, again, if it were real money in mine, I think this is one that I probably would scratch my head over, either abandoning, as you've said, or actually doubling down on it. I know that may sound really weird, but if you take a look at a technical chart for the company, that's what I'm pulling up right now. It's actually deeply oversold the way that most of Wall Street looks at it, and you can see that they've actually had moments back a couple of years ago, very comparable to this. And again, if it were a real money situation and I was feeling frisky, to use the technical phrase that Ken used a few minutes ago, I would not be afraid to take a chance that you could see some version of this type of situation reappear. It went from $1 to $5 in about 7 months here, well, maybe 9 months. So it's the type of thing where you can, it's a roll of the dice, and I know some of us are uncomfortable with that type of situation, but this is clearly a non-core situation. Investing off of the chart instead of the guide, but it's one that I think we should at least talk about. And I know if I make a motion, I know how you guys will vote, so I'm not going to make a motion. That's going to go to somebody else.
Mark, we have a comment from Ann Manning. She says it would be interesting to know what a manifest investing dashboard will be on these companies on the April deep value screen. Will we have an April deep value screen coming out soon?
You mean like the one, clarify a little bit, like the one I just showed, or?
And you're going to need to clarify a little bit more. I've read, Mark, everything that you've written. Meanwhile, I'm going to unmute Marty. And Marty, you're unmuted. Go ahead. Go ahead, Marty.
I'm just, tandem, neutral tandem, it looks pretty good. They've had quite a price drop in the middle of March. But in all the material that I read about it, it sounds like that might be an opportunity to make a good purchase. It's 4.2% of our portfolio, and 200% or 200 shares would kind of bring it close to about between 5 and 6%. It's got good revenue forecast. Earnings aren't quite so great, but it's got nice revenue forecast for the next 2 years. So I guess
there's the price drop you've been describing, yeah.
Yes, right.
Yeah, so that has basically yanked it up towards the top of our sort. It's in the sweet spot here. Yeah. So that's one that we could think about. Absolutely.
Okay, Mark, I'm going to go back to the discussion on HOGS. John Kimmel has a number of points that he's making. First of all, he's making a motion to buy 400 shares of HOGS. And then later on, he indicates, he just says China Construction Bank. I think he's referring to the bank that gave some financial consideration to HOGS. And then another comment from John is that Robert Kleinschmidt of Tocqueville Funds named HOGS as his one stock to buy on Consuelo Mac about 2 weeks ago. So he's making some points about HOGS. The day that was mentioned on the Talking Head show, it did make a real nice move upward on that particular day. And John, if I've misinterpreted anything you've said, will you write me in the question box and set me straight, please?
Well, thanks for that, John. The Tocqueville Funds, for those of you that are not familiar, it is one of our favorites for some of the content that they put out on the psychology and perspectives on the market, but a fairly successful fund that, again, we do like to share, looking over the shoulder of successful funds, and that type of comment is, to me, it's quite bolstering. And again, my attitude on both of these is I think we probably should evaluate increasing our position, if not both, in at least one of them.
Well, John has a motion on the floor, Mark, to buy 400 shares of HOGS.
Okay, so do we have a second for that one? And while we wait for that, I did want to point out that our projected annual return is well, it's actually in the sweet spot, so we don't have to be too overly concerned with selling tonight. If just again to frame the situation that we're in, the environment that we're operating in tonight.
Mark, we have a second from Shirley Pfister.
Thanks, Shirley. Anybody else want to chime in with either a comment or dig in a little bit deeper on HOGS?
I think Laurie is busy getting a poll ready. Am I correct,
Okay.
Laurie?
Yes, I am.
She's
Great.
She's the pollster. I'm pulling up a visual analysis so people can get some idea of what we're looking at with HOGS. Now, one of the things that we are seeing is that they're pretty slow. The analysts that cover these Chinese, relatively smaller companies have been pretty slow to put out their 2012 estimates, and I think I understand why. But the 2011s are out, the 2012s are out for many domestic companies, but you can see that this particular guide, which was prepared fairly recently, definitely shows some nice characteristics for this company, but it's missing at least 1 year of forecast that we see in most companies. And that 400.
Mark, I don't see any discussion about HOGS. We have discussion about other things that's lining up, but no discussion about HOGS.
Okay. Just to demonstrate then, as we get started into this, before we launch the poll, I'm going to actually demonstrate the worksheet nature of our dashboards. I'm copying and creating a clone or a play area for us. And you can see that you can sort this also by the projected annual return. What we're actually talking about doing is operating up here at the top in the higher projected return companies, and the motion has been made to actually buy 400 more shares of HOGS. And if you notice at the bottom of the spreadsheet, the projected return is 13. Doing that transaction will actually take us to 13.6. You can see that if we were to do this, and again, this is a what-if worksheet, 1,000 shares of HOGS will now raise that number to 13.6, and it'll leave our cash in the $16,000 range. So, any questions at this point, or Ken, or can we call the question? And again, for those of you that are out there, everybody's invited to vote. You got anything at this point, Ken?
It looks like we're clear. You can call the question, Mark.
Okay, we'll go ahead and call the question. You're welcome to vote. While we're doing that, go ahead and launch the poll, Lori.
All set.
Just got it out there. And for those of you that are relatively new to this club, keep in mind that many of the people here in the room
Okay,
tonight.
Mark, I'm going to interrupt you for just one moment. Folks, you vote by pressing a button on the screen. Don't send me yes, no in the question box. Vote by pressing a number on the screen.
Can I send you yes or no in the question box, Ken?
Yeah, but we won't count it.
I get no respect.
Can't let him feel good about it.
Okay, we'll count it.
Don't break his illusions.
Anyhow, what I was getting at is some of you may be thinking, wow, they didn't really look at a whole lot of stuff, but keep in mind that many of the people here, we've kicked around this company for a number of months. Some of us are tracking it fairly closely. Ken has actually featured the company a couple of times in our roundtable session. So we have a little bit of familiarity with this Chinese pork producer.
Okay, we have 85% of the people voted, and it's pretty much tapered off. So I'm going to close the poll, and I will share the results, which is pretty overwhelming. 82% say yes, and 18% say no.
Well, fantastic. With 85%, that's pretty strong participation. So thanks everybody for voting.
Okay, Mark, our next thing will be then to move back to Ann Manning, and Ann's hand is up, so I'm now going to unmute her, and she can explain the question she was asking. Go ahead, Ann, you're unmuted.
Now, I was just saying with the April deep value screen, it would be interesting if we made up a dashboard on Manifest Investing and see what those companies did.
Oh, what a neat idea. We'll do that. And I'll make up a dashboard after the meeting. We don't need to do it right now, but we'll actually put together a tracking portfolio. And then I can either have an I told you so, or we'll just forget about it in the future. Thanks, Ann.
I'm trying to keep the questions and hands in order, Mark. So our next question comes from Don Linaw, and Don says, Mark or Ken, what are your feelings on Cisco, seeing how they keep taking a hit on a daily basis? And Mark, I'll let you take the question.
All right. Cisco has been beaten up pretty good. I mean, in a nutshell, I think our overall outlook is that, you know, this is still a pretty good company, operating in a rich area of opportunity. It's actually still relatively small, even though it's a, you know, multi-billion-dollar company. It's a big area of opportunity. You know, one of the mistakes that they've made a few, and they've admitted, you know, a couple botched product situations. John Chambers has been honest about declining on opportunities in certain areas, and all of that stuff adds up to price pressure, downward price pressure on the stock. We look at the company and we continue to see a company that's got, you know, actually pretty strong, in this case 8.7% growth, you know, strong profit margins still, and you know, there could be other companies in that field, and this is where I think Ken would come in and recommend that, you know, if we were going to think about adding in this area of opportunity, maybe we've got to make sure that we're dealing with one of the stronger companies. You know, Marty's already mentioned Neutral Tandem. It's not exactly in the same area, but it's in the same general area of you know, communications, software and hardware that supports the field of communications. Hugh McManus gave a nice presentation at last month's roundtable. If you want to dig in and do a little bit deeper analysis, and let me see if I can't summarize in a nutshell. Hugh actually walked through and did a fairly deep dive on inventory and receivables analysis, balance sheet type of analysis on the company, where his conclusion was that they were beginning to show signs, you know, deeper into the business, that they perhaps are weathering the storms that they face right now. And that was the whole basis for Hugh's recommendation that it be added to our roundtable tracking portfolio. So, you know, I look at the situation, I see a company that's taken a fairly massive hit, that still is fairly well managed with, again, a nice field of opportunity, but a projected return that's, you know, in the high teens, even after conditioning the forecasts a little bit. Ken, do you have anything you want to add to that?
No, Mark, except that I also sold Cisco out of my Groundhog portfolio, and that one I sold because I had been studying F5 networks, and they're kind of, they're not the same business, but they kind of play off of each other.
Mm-hmm.
And since I could only have 5 stocks and really liked what F5 was doing, I got out of Cisco in my Groundhog to make it happen.
I think if you read the Cisco current quarterly report, the management discussion analysis, it's pretty clear that their sales are going to have a lot of pressure on the growth, and their expenses are getting a little bit higher. So I think that's what's causing the stock pressure right now. And that didn't, to me, when I read the report, didn't sound like it was something that was going to resolve itself this year. You know, to me, it's kind of a short-term pressure thing.
Yeah, and that's something that Lori and I kick around quite a bit. I mean, this is a company that's obviously a roller coaster in terms of operating results. And anytime they get in one of those downward swoops in the roller coaster, you're going to have these type of these periods of disruption in the stock price. And it's just a matter of what you believe the long-term trends are. And I think Lori's right. I think you probably have some time to accumulate this one if you deem that that's the appropriate strategy.
Mark, I'm going to move on. Our next motion would be from John Bruntlett, and John would like to move to buy 500 shares of Neutral Tandem. And then if we have a second, Susan Michelik has some discussion for that.
Okay. So it's 500 shares of Neutral Tandem. I'm going to go ahead and jump over to the worksheet and tinker with that, just to basically reinforce the point that.
Marty, you're unmuted. Is this for a second?
Yes, it is, Ken.
Thank you, Marty. So, Mark, it is seconded, and Susan Michelik then would like to make the point that Neutral Tandem has had negative earnings per share growth for the last 4 quarters and falling profit margins as well. Susan, if you want to add anything else, I would be glad to unmute you.
I don't know if I have one of them handy. Let me see if I have a. That's way too old.
Susan indicates that's the only point that she'd like to make. I'm not seeing any other. Is there any other discussion for Neutral Tandem? And I'm aware that I have a lineup here of folks asking to discuss other companies, but let's stick with Neutral Tandem for the moment here.
Yeah, we have to try to take them one at a time, gang. So. I seem to have messed up my.
Mark, there are no hands up, and we're not getting any discussion.
Okay, why don't we go ahead and call the question as soon as Lori's ready then.
I'm ready.
Okay, go ahead and push the poll. I realize I don't get to vote. I'll just go and do other things while you guys are taking care of this.
Mark, Ann is indicating, while the poll's going on, Ann indicated that she took a screen capture of that value screen, and she's presently making a dashboard about it.
Excellent. You guys don't miss a point, do you?
Ann, it would be wonderful for you to be able to see the new feature on the new dashboard that allows you to make these tracking dashboards so easily, where you can just automatically put $100 into each one of the stocks, and it does all the arithmetic for every single one of the stocks. Susan, I got a very cryptic message from you. It says, why didn't, and evidently you hit a return before you finish typing, so I'm going to need a little bit more. Here it comes. Mark, Susan said you should have shown the SSG for Neutral Tandem.
I tried. I think I see they definitely had an event.
She says the comment additionally, it's not pretty.
Yeah, they had an event in the 4th quarter, and that's another subject that we could probably tackle in much greater detail in the future. Because I don't know that I'm going to be able to really do much with it here tonight.
Okay, we have 75% of the people voted, and it's pretty much stopped. So I'm going to close this, and it looks like we have 80% say no, and only 20% say yes on this one.
Sounds like Susan will be happy with the results there. I'm going to move, Mark, to Herb Lemkel, and Herb would like you to take a look at HCG.TO. And Herb, is this the stock that we spoke about this weekend? Because if it is, I think you have the wrong ticker.
I have a question. Did we finish the discussion on ABAT?
Nope, we're getting there. I'm moving down the list here because we didn't have a motion at any time. We do now, though.
Mm-hmm. Okay, is there an active motion on the floor, Ken?
There's no active motion, and Herb is the next one in the queue, Mark, okay?
Okay.
Herb, you're unmuted.
And what's the ticker symbol?
Herb, you're unmuted.
Yeah, it's HCG.TO. That's a Canadian company that has credit cards.
Okay, we certainly don't cover that one. I would recognize that one, I think, unless you know that we do, Ken.
No,
is there an ADR?
You can get it under your toolkit.
I'm not sure that I can. What's the name? What's the actual name of the company, Herb?
I can't find it because I can't get into my screen because I got something wrong with my screen because I have it's a full screen of you and I can't get into anything else. So
No, it's actually not in the value line 3500. So I'd have to
yeah.
do a little bit more homework on that one. So we'll have to table that one.
I was on the toolkit and I went into the toolkit without any problem, but I can't find it right now. So
Okay, I'll pull that one up and take a look at it. See if we can't.
Yeah, I don't want to do anything for a motion. I just would like to put it in our watch list.
So I'll just vote